Hi guys, welcome back. It's Karla and Carly here on our podcast, Without a Candle. Ooh, that was good timing.
That was.
Not even planned.
Yeah.
So today, Carly's going to guide us through some conversation. She's really good at that, by the way. Like, you are
Thank you.
good interviewee.
Yeah.
Is that
Interviewer.
interviewer? She really keeps us on track, so I appreciate that. So she's got some new, insightful topics for us. I'm super excited about that.
It's a fun one today, and I thought it was like a good one to like follow up on the last one. So this one is like spirituality in everyday practices. So even down to like the mundane, right? So
Carly just got really excited.
Yeah, I did.
You guys can see it, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Because like this is like one of the biggest things in like my practice is doing everything just so mundanely. Like it's just so a part of like everyday things.
You don't have to work for it. These little things.
You know, I do rituals sometimes. I do some I'm such a child. Do some like specific intention practices, but in everyday life and spirituality, life gets away from you. Life doesn't give you a lot of time to sit there and journal for 20 minutes and then go and do something or altar for however long and then all the things. Sometimes it's literally just getting in your car and driving and being like, okay, I'm going to check in with myself. Or I'm washing the dishes, so I'm going to have a conversation with my deity. Or however it looks like for you.
Using time that you're already spending. Okay.
So we're going to deep dive into weaving spirituality in everyday life and how it doesn't have to be this whole like grand gesture all the time.
Right. You don't always have to have the theatrical.
Yeah. No. So one thing I wanted to ask you before we kind of like got into it was, is there anything that you do as part of your practice that is like just something mundane that you use to check in with yourself? How does this look like for you?
Yes. So one of the most very basic things that I do, it's that deep breath that you guys see sometimes, that pause,
that check-in,
just a nice gentle breath of awareness. But then some of the harsher things, but I'm not really sure how you tie this into spirituality, but it's just that mindset of being better. So not like being better than anyone else, but just being better for myself and appreciating that gratitude for the greater good, no matter what that is, if you believe it is. But some of that is like putting myself in check. So when the mindset strays away from anything that doesn't serve the greater good or the higher power, I have to be like, hey, stop. Like I have to tell myself to stop. Take that nice big deep breath and just really pull my shit together.
Yeah.
And being aware.
We just had this conversation.
Yeah.
Like Saturday.
I think so, yeah.
We were letting our ego and human self come into play with some really aggravating things.
Just some situations that
just don't align with
because they don't set well with our energy. They don't set well with our practice. They don't set well with us being good people.
No, and that's why it aggravates that ego so much, right? So when we finally had that conversation to like just release, and they're like, okay, we had that release, we're good. We're no longer giving that any more energy.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of those reminders, right? 100%. Just being aware of what your intentions are. And that changes too when it becomes a practice.
Yeah.
So when it changes from like just something that you say to something that you do on a regular basis, that's a practice to me.
Yep, and that becomes a habit. That becomes part of your spirituality.
Yep, just like waking up and brushing your teeth, or not, if you, that's not my business. Just like, any other way you start your morning, right? It becomes part of who you are.
So from the outside looking in on you, one thing that I would, if somebody were to come and ask me, what does Carla practice? I would say that nourishing your body and honoring your body is such a huge part of your spirituality journey.
Yeah.
Because you are constantly like, okay, I'm checking with myself. My gut don't feel good. My head doesn't feel like whatever it is that day.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I'm gonna go do the research. These are all the tools I have. This is what I'm gonna do. And you do that.
So Sarah from Earth Alchemy, if you guys don't know Sarah yet, you probably will. But she uses the phrase self-inventory. I really like that. Okay. Self-inventory. Just like the same way you would go to your cupboards and see, okay, like, do I have bread? Do I have all these things?
Yeah.
You would go to your body and be like, okay, so this is what I have. This is what I don't have. This is how I feel. That, those kinds of things. Have I had water? Whatever. So I appreciate that, because that's something I would not pay attention to. Like, I don't realize that that's part of, but you're not wrong. Right.
Part of your spiritual practice. I like that. Some little examples that I want to give people on how they could incorporate their spiritual practice in everyday life is I chose 3 different topics. So the first one is just going out in nature, going on a walk. So how would you incorporate spirituality just by walking, right? Even just walking from like our store down to like Cordial or anywhere.
Can I change that for a second?
Yeah.
So, like, Karlie, and this may be one of those things that, like, from the outside looking in, I notice, but you don't notice. You have 3 trees in your backyard. And so you often, like, sit out there with Weston or take the dogs out to use the bathroom. And that's part of your awareness, that you are aware of them when you're out and about in your yard,
I do. They are part of my practice. I do talk to them quite frequently.
But back to your question, just on like those minor walks, like down to our favorite coffee shop and those kind of things.
Do you have any examples of how you could turn that like 2-minute walk into a spiritual check-in?
Well, there's a practice around meditation, and that there's like meditative walks, right? Where you're just like, definitely not the one I've been going to the meeting last week. That was not meditative walk.
No.
So where you're really just noticing the things around you, right? Maybe you're looking up at the building windows and you're just taking your time.
Everything in for what it is, not just as a thing.
Appreciation.
A different awareness around it. There'll be times where I'm even driving downtown and I'll look up at the top of the building. I'm like, oh, I've never noticed the date up there. Interesting. I need to go back and like figure out why that date is
why that's there. So she's a safe driver.
It usually,
but just just awarenesses. But I think I get where you're going.
The awareness. Had thought that speaking intention in every footstep you have. So let's say I'm going down there for my morning coffee or a bagel or whatever. I'm gonna set my intention for the day because it's the start of my day, right? Or maybe it's the end of my day and I'm going to go down there to like just pick something up. What am I going to like set my attention to? Right? Just taking a moment of you're walking, pay attention to your footsteps and just set intention.
Realizing that they have purpose, The other day when I think I was locked in front of the car. Well, the day after that, where we were both like kind of hungry, but I really wanted something. And so the intention for that, whether it was spoken or even known in the moment, was for us to have a moment together.
Oh, okay.
And for us to just, and it was fun and playful and we'll go. But I really only just wanted you to go with me, right? And I knew I needed that protein, so and some nourishment that way.
Okay. So the other thing that I thought of is when you're out in nature and you're on a walk, forage mindfully. So really take note of what you're foraging for. And maybe you're not foraging for anything in particular, and that wasn't your intention, but you end up on your walk finding something.
Like the little trinket.
Okay, yes, and like appreciate it for what it is, right? The other thing is just simply listening. That awareness of what we were just talking about, listening to what is going on around you, even if you're not downtown, or maybe you're just by the river or a creek or just deep in the woods, something. Listen, just take a moment, take that deep breath, just listen.
To hear things. And then sometimes those practices are about listening or hearing, making note that they're there, but then letting them like dissipate, so they don't hold your attention too long. And that's even going to be with things you see, right? So if you're out in town and you're doing your meditative walk, or you had an intention for a good morning walk and you see something that's not so great, you can just pay attention to it for a moment. You don't have to let it like upset your tone or disrupt your day. So that's just awareness.
These are also good opportunities for you to be able to maybe listen to a guide. or spirit, or maybe even have a conversation with the deity that you work with in your practice, because sometimes it may feel like you're doing these grand gestures, you're doing the altar work, you're doing the journaling, and nothing's coming through. And maybe sometimes it's good to take the moment to like sit and listen when you're on these walks, like in the quiet or just checking in with yourself, because your guides, your spirit, your intuition, your intention, they have something to say to you. And I feel like a lot of the time they do, we're just not listening.
Absolutely.
Because we're the hustle and bustle of like everyday life.
Right. But then you were talking about grand gestures. Like, I feel like sometimes we can try so hard
to connect,
and it feels like so demanding, right?
Yeah.
That we maybe miss out on some of the smaller pieces to the solution. So, like, you may be having a little tidbits of awareness, you know, that you're hearing or seeing or dreaming about, but you're missing them.
Yeah.
Because of all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So reflection, I think, is huge too.
It's huge. Another mundane task that I think people don't realize they can incorporate spirituality with is driving. You're in your car doing what?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, most people waste time in their car.
No.
Not that all music is a waste of time. But
so interesting you mentioned music, because I had a thought of, if you are listening to music, set intention with the songs you're listening to. Because there's a message in everything, right? There's a message in what they are singing to you. So maybe you put together a playlist that has a specific intention for whatever you want to set. And that's what you listen to on your morning drive home, or your morning drive to work, or your drive home, or wherever you're going. Maybe it's travel, you know, whatever it is.
So choosing things that may be uplifting for the morning and kind of releasing for the evening, or those types of things.
Yep, absolutely.
Most of my aha moments come either when I'm in the shower or I'm driving.
Yeah, and we can't write anything down.
Yeah, I personally like audiobooks when I'm driving, but I feel like most of the audiobooks I listen to are still enough to where I can still hear the message. But the energy of an audiobook is so relaxing, kind of, sort of, but it's not sporadic, right? So, like with just the radio, how music shifts from one song to another song with different energies. Yeah. Audiobooks are kind of just like an even for me. Even Monica. Yeah. Going like that. Let's see that ground.
Oh, yes.
Love getting lost.
Yeah. Because that's also spiritual in itself, of, you know, taking a moment to be aware of things, right? Seeing things from a different viewpoint, experiencing something new. You take a lot of in when you are looking, right?
Yeah. Not just looking to look, but looking to see.
Yes.
It's kind of like not just hearing, not just listening to listen, but listening to hear.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right, or is it backwards?
It's almost like the same concept of listening to
I know what you're talking about. Like listening to understand or something like that.
Listening to understand versus listening to respond.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's the same thing, because then it gives you a different perspective and like a deeper meaning and like what you're actually like ingesting, you know. Another thing that I like to do when I'm driving is using stops as like check-in. So like if I am like at a stop
a long trip, or like just
anytime,
just here and two.
but
wherever.
So like if I come to a stoplight and I'm at a stoplight, I'll use that to kind of like check in with myself, because I feel like the in-betweens of when I'm physically driving is when I zone out the most and I lose, right?
Gotcha.
At least that's for me in my practice. Every time I'm at a stop, I feel like that's pulling me out of that like tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And I'm able to like check in with myself and take that deep breath and be like, okay, let's refocus.
That pause. Yeah.
Against the pause. And then also, because we travel a lot, we're in the car for long periods of time, using traffic to recite affirmations.
Okay.
So this is something new that I've started, is if I can see on the GPS that there's like a 6 to 8 minute or however long like delay is, I'll come up with something, and that would be my focus for like that specific like time frame.
Versus road rage.
Yep. Because it gets so aggravating, especially going through Indianapolis. No, thank you. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's a new practice.
Off the top of your head, what would be one of your favorite affirmations?
I am who I am, and I don't have to be anybody else.
Gotcha.
And that is also something new for me because I don't share the same ideology as a lot of people in my family, and that is okay. But when we go back to visit, reminding myself that I don't have to be anybody else other than
That you
myself.
can just be Karlie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not that they're horrible to be around or anything, but just definitely like different viewpoints. And sometimes you do need that personal check-in of, hey, I'm I am, and that's okay. If no one else gets it, I do. You know. So definitely using, and maybe you need that if you're going into work. Maybe you need that going into an interview. I don't know.
Grocery shopping.
Oh gosh, yes. I know you hate grocery shopping. Yeah. But speaking of grocery shopping, grocery stores is the next example I had.
Oh, was it really?
Mundane
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of goes back to your spiritual practice, just a tiny bit of when you're going and selecting foods or produce, most of the time we all have a list of like what we already are gonna buy, right? But sometimes we're choosing produce just for the sake of fresh, right?
Right.
So something to keep in mind when you're doing that is, or even just choosing maybe fresh over processed.
How it's gonna feel, like how it's gonna feel later,
How's
right?
it gonna nourish you?
Yeah.
How is this gonna nourish me today? And being intentional about that.
Absolutely.
The other big thing was, and I kind of chuckled at myself when I envisioned this one, was literally thanking, Mother Earth for all of the substance, the food that we have in our stores, processed or not,
That you have the option.
that we have the option, right? And it made me chuckle because when I was writing this down, I envisioned me standing in like an aisle, just randomly next to like the ranch dressing. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure some of those things came from the earth,
Yeah.
right? Some of those ingredients did.
Yeah.
But even if not, the knowledge to compose those ingredients, I mean,
Yeah.
it came from energy somewhere.
Yeah, they did. And then the last thing that I thought would be beneficial for the mundane is at checkout. Right now, money is a huge stressor for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So instead of thinking of it as a stressor, kind of rewire that viewpoint into thinking of money as an energy exchange.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about energy exchange and how it doesn't always have to be monetary. Yeah.
And then with changing or switching that mindset a little bit, visualizing abundance and gratitude, right? Because you're in a store buying something you did not.
Absolutely.
And that money exchange, that money energy is allowing you to get abundance in food, right? No matter what that type of food looks like.
Absolutely.
Or it doesn't have to be food. It can be, the paper towels. There's just something you need. There's a need there, right?
Right.
So trying to switch the narrative, negative to positive.
Well, because I also believe and teach that where you spend your attention or your awareness is where what grows, right? So if you have a mindset of scarcity, like, oh, I don't have enough for this, I can't afford this. I'm not saying that some of those cases aren't true occasionally, but that's always your dialogue, and that's going to always be your truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Going back just a moment and discussing how things like grocery shopping or choosing where I consume food plays into my practice as well.
Yeah.
It's that energy is everywhere. And we've had a conversation on this and maybe again later, but that energy leaves imprints. Right, like that's something I believe when I teach. So if Carly's having a shit day and she's like fumbling through all the apples that fell out and she's trying to pick them all up, now she has left, in my practice and my belief, she has left an energy imprint of her experience. So sometimes there may be no rhyme or reason to why a certain produce not feels, but feels a certain way that day.
Yeah.
And then eating out, energy comes from everywhere. So if you're eating a meat-based food, how was harvest?
Yeah.
Like there's energy on that.
Yeah.
There's energy around how it was prepared. Yeah, that was the other word. So I often am aware, wow, excuse me guys, of not choosing places of chaos to consume food. So I know that sounds kind of crazy, But there may be a bar around the corner and they may have great tasting food, but being prepared in chaos.
Yeah.
Do I want that? And the answer is probably not.
Yeah. No.
So
That's a good insight on changing that mindset within the mundane, because those are such simple things that 90% of us don't even consider.
but when it becomes your practice, it just sits differently.
So when we talk about formulating practice too, it's important to add that practice doesn't happen overnight. Practice takes time. And it takes about 21 days to create the habit for it to become a practice. So don't ever feel like your practice of how you see your everyday life moving forward is supposed to be, that's just going to happen and generate like so quickly, right? That is definitely going to come with intention and showing up and doing the things, and you're gonna fall off, and that's okay. You will pick it back up if it's no longer serving you.
Is that even part of your practice? It's just being aware of like, hey, I didn't do the things today. So in a different mindset though, I'm not holding guilt to it, right? Like I'm not guilty that I didn't do my breath work today. Like I'm like, hey, I missed that today, right? Yeah, and just sits there.
And then when you also have the awareness too, it gives you the perspective of, oh wow, I actually do miss doing that. Because sometimes we do the things and we've done it for so long.
It feels like a chore.
Yeah, it feels like a chore, or it feels like it's not working, or it just doesn't hold the same. So you do have to take a break, and that's okay too. You know,
you don't know you miss until it's gone. That's the same with practice and energy work too.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great reminder. Thank you.
So when you start to think that everything is sacred, and it's all about awareness, you reform your chores, you reform your mindset.
Yeah.
And oh wow, this doesn't have to be an additive to my life.
Right.
It's just different way of going about things.
Well, then some of the verbiage around it too. So I'm sure somewhere in the past 2.5, whatever years that we've been having conversations, that maybe I've mentioned to the different verbiage between I have to and I get to.
Yeah.
So like I get to get up and take my kids to school every day. I don't have to, but I get to. I get to have children. I get to get up. I get to have a vehicle. You know, I get to water my flowers. I get to do those things, you know, and it's different. Like, everything is sacred. Like life is sacred. Time is sacred. And life and time shared are definitely sacred.
Because even though on the larger scale, you think you have all of this time and you think you have, day in and day out, your son is going to be there. In reality, they're only children in our lives for such a short time. That flower can not be your plant next week because you trapped water. Like, you know what I mean? Like a car accident.
Called out.
Right,
shit can happen.
Shit can happen when you start taking for granted the longevity you think you have with things or people. That's when you lose the spirituality and magic.
Even just with like not so grand things, like not spending time with family, not taking those trips, but even smaller things, like I have the opportunity to walk down the street and get a cup of coffee. You know, I can go to the corner store and I can get my Lotus drink. You know what I mean? Like I can, chat with Teresa about yoga. Like I get to experience those things, right?
And even in the moment, they feel so mundane that you don't realize how much they're actually feeding your soul.
Yeah.
That they're actually feeding that spiritual connection that your spirit itself is yearning for, right? Because we're just here for a human experience. And it's our job to figure out what that is and how to live by that. And we're never going to have a guidebook for it. We're never going to have a complete how to, this is exactly how you need to be to get where you, no, we need to figure that out. And then once we slow down and start seeing things differently and experiencing things
and then taking time to digest and understand and comprehend. So not just seeing or hearing, but like really comprehending, really understanding.
Yeah.
And appreciating.
Yeah, appreciation is huge with it. So sorry, I just had like another thought.
Of a side quest.
Yeah. So like repetitive tasks are great
Oh,
to enter those meditative states.
okay. Yeah, like the drumming or the chanting or, yeah.
Yeah.
Good tap.
And I feel like allowing yourself to be able to sit there for 10 minutes and fold laundry and enter a meditative state, well, your body and muscle memory already knows. I'm like, fold the clothes and put them away. What's your brain do? Your brain can be expanding.
And sometimes, early on in a practice, it's just that self-talk. Once people realize that they can reprogram that self-talk and that they do have control over that inner dialogue, I think that's a big aha moment into coming into a spiritual practice as well. Because those aren't the moments in negative self-talk. I believe it's time wasted versus time spent.
Absolutely. And I think that it's interesting that you bring this up because this is something that I'm kind of working through right now. I don't really know how to articulate.
I heard transforming. I don't know what that's.
Okay, I like that. Transforming my viewpoint on how I'm feeling right now in my sexuality. Okay, right?
Yeah.
And so remembering that it may not feel like anything is happening right now, but there's so much in the back happening that I'm not aware of yet, but I will be. And if I go back to that negative dialogue, it's only going to
regress more
and delay that aha moment that I know is going to come. So, like, when we have people coming here that have that everyday negative dialogue, and it's so easy for us to be like, hey, stop doing that. Well, that's a habit. Like, that's such a hard habit for people to break. But once they do, they come back in here and they're like, thank you, So that's a really profound message that you do preach quite a bit.
We often talk about verbiage, and now I think you often share about verbiage and how you could, because words have power. Words are, a very, and even your thoughts are a very basic but profound part of your magic, and your power.
Well, and it all comes down to your human body, because your ego wants to know all the things. Your ego wants to control all the things.
I started to say, there's some parts of our journey that is none of our business, right?
Until it is.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like this little gift being wrapped behind your back. Yeah. And what that is none of your business until it's presented to you or until it's brought to light or until there is that awakening, right?
Yeah.
That's been a topic for a minute now. That's some things are just none of your business, right? Like, we're not supposed to know the how of some things. We're just supposed to put forth the effort and just know that some things just are going to be what they need to be. Yeah. I had an aha moment, but I don't remember what it was. We'll be back for now. So I'm shifting weight really quickly, guys. Thanks for your patience.
To kind of piggyback off of what you just said, I really like the reminders of we are the tools. We don't need the tools because we are the tools. All magic, spirituality, however you want to define it, requires is just presence.
Presence and intention. Attention and intention. Like, those are, like, you can't just, maybe you can just keep wishing for things to happen. But when you put work and effort into it, it changes things. Even, the mental and mindset of things, like, that is work. That is intention. That is a practice. That is a concept. Yeah. It's so many deep things.
I know.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind when, at least it used to, and how simple.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, when I first started getting into my spirituality and with digging and doing the research and watching the videos and having numerous conversations with so many people, at the end of the day, yes, there's so much information, but it's literally all the same.
Did that piss you off a little?
Yes and no, in a way, because it's like, this is all that I've been missing. Like, I thought this was, like, there was more. Does that make any sense?
A little bit. Like, there is more to come. There is more magic. There is more to learn. But the road to get there isn't that hard.
No, it is so simple.
But you know what? This is probably another topic too. There's no money in not having grand gestures. There's no money in not having all the things.
Yeah.
There's no money in gatekeeping.
There isn't.
Man, that's it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. So use your practice as your space, right? Bless your space, no matter where that space is. Make mundane moments your altar. You don't have to, like, you can. Most of us do. We do have an altar, some way, shape, or form. But you can have an altar and
Literally take your hand and, clear a space on your dresser. And even if you just dust the dresser with just your hand and you decide for just that moment that this is my space today, that's enough.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you didn't sanitize it or whatever. You didn't put a candle out there. You didn't sprinkle herbs around it. But just claiming a space and just tending to it the best you can in that moment. I had a visual of someone, maybe it was me, on the floor of the forest. And I just, cleared away some debris and smoothed out some fresh dirt. Maybe that's your altar today, right? Maybe you use your finger and draw on the dirt the items that you would like to see or some symbols, right? Maybe that's all you need today. Maybe you use water from the creek to anoint something. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. Just find the special in the mundane. Understand that you yourself hold the tool. And you give yourself the sacred without all of the other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the concepts of this conversation around not having tools came about. And I don't know if you've heard it before this or not, but I was sharing in the Reiki classes, because some Reiki practitioners, they do have all the stones, they do have extra tools, they use their cards, they use this. I would hate for any of you guys to show up to someone somewhere needing energy work. And you're like, oh, I can't. I don't have my things. You're really not going to help someone or something or some place or some space because you don't have your tools. You are the tool.
Just like in Reiki, the universal energy flows through each and every one of us. And that's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
So, back to the basics, guys.
Literally.
And I hope that's encouraging some words, for you guys not to spend too much time gathering things.
Yeah. And I hope that it kind of helps simplify things a little bit and make your journey not feel so far away.
And weighted for
and-
some reason that
yeah.
came to me. It's not supposed to feel hard and heavy.
It's not supposed to be hard at all. It isn't hard at all. You just gotta do it.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but the energy has shifted quite a bit the last 15 minutes. We both are now so relaxed and it's almost like we need a nap.
Yeah.
But it's just comfort, it's just comfort in sitting back and having good, simple conversations. Just appreciation for the easiness of it.
And it's a good reminder for us to remember that it is simple. And that's okay.
Yeah.
If you feel the need to share anything, please feel free to. We love for you guys to reach out and share any questions or insight you may have on this topic. The next episode, I don't know what that topic will be, but I'm sure it will be just as interesting. And thank you again for listening, supporting, and encouraging. We greatly appreciate you guys, because without you, we wouldn't be doing
there would be a need for us.
So we hope you have a wonderful day, whatever time and space you are currently in. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye. See you when I see you.